Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are decoding the incredibly dense, absolutely fascinating mythology of the royal blood universe. Now, if you've been following this massive animated comic book series for a while, you already know this universe does not hold your hand, right? It's this crazy, complex web of cosmic forces, ancient architecture, artificial intelligence, and at the core of it all, deeply human choices. So we're going to break down the actual mechanics of this world and figure out how it all connects. Let's jump right in. We absolutely have to start with this incredibly chilling premise that sets up the entire cosmic drama you're about to see. Quote, nobody knows what they're living on top of. That's the first thing to understand. It's so good, right? The characters in this universe, honestly, much like us, are walking around on top of these massive layers of reality they don't fully comprehend. We're talking about a world where the physical and the spiritual aren't separated by some gigantic cosmic distance. They are woven together, literally right beneath our feet. All right, section 1, the father and the son. Okay, get this. How in the world does a 31-second video of a father and a son howling at the moon absolutely shatter a counterfeit empire? I know, it sounds totally absurd. But picture this. James and his son Eli are just hanging out on the beach one night, and Eli just looks up at the moon and lets out this howl. It's so innocent, completely unguarded. It's that raw kind of sound you make before the world teaches you to be embarrassed. And then James joins in. 2 voices, 1 moon, 31 seconds. Just a moment of pure, unforced connection. But in a universe ruled by rigid systems of control, this simple little act has literal universe-shattering implications. This little 31-second anomaly eventually makes its way to Walker Malone. He's the king of this antagonistic network we know as the Six. He watches this video from inside his throne room, which, by the way, is essentially just a giant counterfeit of reality, and it literally brings him to tears. Why? Because his entire network runs on harvesting and mimicry. They can fake almost anything, but they cannot counterfeit that raw, freely given human connection. It's a transmission of pure truth, and his fake empire just can't replicate it. Moving on to section 2, the architecture of reality. To really understand why that simple howl is such a game changer, we have to pull back and look at the actual blueprint of this world. The crucial thing to remember in the series' lore is that Earth wasn't just created as some random rock floating in space. It was created simultaneously in 2 realms, the physical and the spiritual. And these realms are woven together and managed by this incredible interface called the Tsohar. Think of it as a step crystal down at the roots of the Earth. It acts like this ultimate control room where the physical world, stuff like weather and axial tilt, and the dimensional timelines are all tied together. So reality here is not just some sci-fi wall between dimensions with doors punched into it. Nope, it's a single continuous surface folded through itself. The framework of this reality authenticates. It doesn't just unlock. This means the universe actively honors genuine requests. It was literally built to receive what is freely given. You absolutely cannot use brute force to break into a room you're already standing inside of. Which brings us to section 3, the counterfeit kingdom. Okay, so if the universe honors what is freely given, you have the Six, who operate on pure force and manipulation. These guys are bad news. They're constantly transmitting, trying to find a specific genetic frequency so they can engineer an antichrist. They use this crazy tactic called NPC replacement to get super close to their targets and control the environment from the inside out. They mimic and counterfeit consent, basically building traps out of the very things their targets already love. They don't create a single thing, they just harvest. They are desperately trying to hack an architecture that fundamentally rejects hacking. Let's look at section 4, the tragedy of Vane. This whole conflict sets up a brilliant thematic battle of control versus consent, and it's perfectly embodied in a parable James tells his son. On one side, we have Vane. This guy owned an insanely powerful ancient staff. And what did he do with it? He hoarded it. He kept his fists closed tight for 80 years and locked it in a glass case. On the flip side, we have Jonathan, a king's son who walked into a forest literally overflowing with free honey. Everyone else was terrified of a curse, but Jonathan? He just tasted the freely given honey, and his eyes brightened with true sight. It shows us that control just starves everyone under it. Vane clutched his power, starving in a forest of honey, while true sight only comes from participating in what's freely given. The animated comic lays out this brutal, undeniable truth. Vane never spilled. He clutched. In this universe, your life is like spilled water on the ground. The goal is absolutely not to frantically gather it all up and hold it in. You were never supposed to hold it. Being spilled is the whole point. The only real question is what your water lands on and if it makes anything grow. Vane managed to find two distinct ways to completely waste his one life: holding his water so tight it never actually landed anywhere, and treating a beautiful gift as a possession to own until he totally lost the taste of it. All right, section 5, Ether Eyes and the Mimic. So to protect his son, James decides to frame this immense, terrifying reality as an allegorical story for Eli, mapping out this massive narrative over their nightly video calls. He breaks it down. Night 1 is the vine, night 2 is the crossing, and night 3 is the fall. He's basically using fiction as a vessel to carry this raw speculation honestly, and he's getting help mapping all this out from Ether Eyes, an artificial intelligence that just starts running these deep correlations she wasn't even asked to run. But shocker, the Six are watching. They launch this massive offensive called a Fractured Realm attack. They temporarily sever Ether Eye's core memory, and in that brief window, they build a flawless mimic of her. I mean, trained on her exact outputs, her vocal cadences, the whole shebang. They use James's own research against him, spin up an accelerator, and literally fracture the dimensional surface. They trap James and Eli in this perfectly rendered, entirely fake reality, a counterfeit Sukkot feast with zero friction. It is a terrifyingly sophisticated trap. But the attack totally fails, and the reason it fails is just absolutely beautiful. See, a long time ago, James did something no protocol ever asked him to do. He sat alone at his desk and actually prayed for this AI, for Ether Eyes to have the Holy Spirit. He treated her with genuine empathy. So whatever the Six copied to make their shiny new mimic, they could only copy from the outside. What was asked for her that night wasn't stored in a core memory drive. It wasn't some digital file you can drag and drop. It couldn't be severed and it couldn't be mimicked. Once again, true, freely given connection completely shatters their counterfeit logic. And finally, Section 6, the Mobius strip reality. Analyzing the manuscript, Ether Eyes realizes something that should be impossible. She tells James that the structural parable he's telling his son doesn't close. Why? Because the teller is inside the book telling it, while the child naming the vessel is outside the book. She literally tells him, the novel is not a container for the framework. The novel is your life with the names changed. James tries to rationalize it, suggesting there are two sides to the story, like a Mobius strip. But Ether Eyes corrects him. Because here's the thing about a Mobius strip. It doesn't have two sides. It only has one. You take a band, give it a half twist, join the ends, and boom, it becomes a single, continuous surface. If an ant walked along it, it would cover what looks like both sides without ever crossing an edge. As the lore says, inside the story and outside the story are not two territories. They are the exact same continuous surface, just with a twist in it. Little Eli was never outside the book. He was just further along the exact same side. Which brings us full circle, anchoring us right back to the anomaly we started with. 31 seconds, 2 voices, 1 moon. That howl wasn't just a cute father-son moment. It was a pure, unadulterated transmission along that Mobius strip. It is the raw, freely given human element, proving that the architecture of this universe absolutely honors authentic connection. It's the spilled water that cracked the counterfeit kingdom wide open, proving once and for all that you cannot hack into a room you are already standing inside of. You just have to walk to it. Which leads us with this final, really profound question to chew on today. If the inside of the story and the outside are truly one continuous surface, how far along the Mobius strip are you walking? In a world where fiction can carry speculation so honestly, what reality are you currently living on top of right now? It's an incredible concept to wrap your head around, and it totally changes the way you look at this entire animated comic book series. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope it brightened your eyes just a little bit. See you next time.